Hi everyone, Charlotte here from New Zealand Shores. Today we are talking about what is a job check and what is a job token and how does that influence my visa process for New Zealand. So from an employer's side, there are two key steps that they have to go through in order for you to be able to apply for either an accredited employer work visa or a variation of conditions on an accredited employer work visa. The first step is employer accreditation, and we have a separate video up on our YouTube channel about what employer accreditation is. The second step is what is a job check. Now, a job check is a labour market test. It is a way of Immigration New Zealand determining whether or not there are a lot of suitable New Zealanders available to do that role and available to be hired before a migrant is offered that role. There's several different criteria which have to be taken into effect when a job check is applied for. The first one is what is the occupation level. So Immigration New Zealand are currently running two different classification lists for occupations. The first is called ANZSCO, which is an Australian New Zealand classification system, and it ranks occupations from skill levels 1 through to 5. Immigration New Zealand are also using the NOL, the National Occupational List, and that NOL is actually more directed towards New Zealand than New Zealand and Australia combined, but they are still running both lists concurrently at the moment as Immigration New Zealand slowly transitions across to the NOL. So we have to first look at what is your level of occupation. The second thing we then have to look at is your occupation on a green list, and do you meet the green list criteria? So if your role is on a green list and you meet the green list criteria, your employer may not need to advertise. However, even if the occupation is on the green list and you as a visa applicant don't meet the green list criteria specifically, that role may still need to be advertised. The third thing we look at is what is the salary for that role. So if a role is being paid at double the median wage, then that role may not need to be advertised, and an employer may just be able to go ahead with the job check without actually advertising the role. A role will either need to be advertised for 2 or 3 weeks, if it does need to be advertised, and then that advertising is utilised in that job check application to show that there are no New Zealanders available to that role. The tricky thing with advertising, if it does need to be advertised, is that Immigration New Zealand have very strict criteria around what needs to be included in that advertising. They are very specific, and a lot of the things that they look for aren't things that Kiwi employers are used to actually putting in job adverts. So whilst employer accreditation can be a really easy thing for employers to obtain, job checks can be a little bit more complex, and as advisors we look at all three of those components, and we also look at the person that an employer is intending to hire for that role to then determine what is the path we take with this job check application. If the role needs to be advertised, we provide guidance on what that advertising needs to include. And we also look at the factors surrounding green list and pay rate to make sure that everything is being done correctly to ensure an approval on the job check. Now, once the job check has actually been approved, Immigration New Zealand then issue what we call job tokens. And a job token is a unique identifier number which is associated directly with that job check. And the job token is a unique link and number which then allow you to apply for either your accredited employer work visa or your variation of conditions. So there's 3 steps there that we need to look at. 1, we need to make sure the employer is accredited. We cannot apply for a job check until the employer has become an accredited employer. 2, we then need to submit the job check and have that process smoothly with Immigration New Zealand. To then 3, generate your job token or your job check number, which then allow you to go and apply for your visa. This is often a lot easier than what it sounds, but it does have to be attacked in the right way. So if you are a migrant who has recently received a job offer in New Zealand, or you are an employer who has listened to this and thought, oh my goodness, this is really confusing, please do reach out to us at info@newzealandshores.com, and we can give you some guidance on how to go through this job check process and what to do to ensure successful visa approval.